What makes a society just? Is justice about fairness or about order? About equality or about harmony? Over 2,000 years ago, in the heart of ancient Athens, one man dared to answer this question not with politics, but with philosophy. His name was Plato, and his book, The Republic, remains one of the most powerful and controversial blueprints for an ideal society ever written. But was Plato's Republic a call for a utopia or a warning against one? This is the story of how Plato tried to build the perfect society through the power of justice. 1. Athens in crisis, the birth of a philosopher's dream. To understand the Republic, we must first step into the world that gave it life. Athens, around 380 BCE, was no longer the shining democracy that had defeated Persia or birthed philosophy. It was wounded, politically, morally, and spiritually. The Peloponnesian War had left the city humiliated. Its democracy, once a beacon of freedom, had turned into chaos. For Plato, this wasn't just politics, it was personal. He had watched his beloved teacher, Socrates, be condemned to death by the very democracy that claimed to value truth. Socrates' crime? Asking too many questions. That injustice burned into Plato's soul. How could a society that killed its wisest man call itself just? So Plato began a mission, not to fix democracy, but to redefine justice itself. 2. The quest for justice, a conversation that changed history. Plato's Republic isn't written like a modern book. It's a dialogue, a philosophical conversation. At its center stands Socrates, questioning everyone from politicians to poets about what justice really means. Some say justice is giving people what they deserve. Others say it's helping friends and harming enemies. But Socrates, as always, refuses to accept easy answers. He insists that justice isn't just about personal morality, it's about the structure of the entire city. So, he imagines something extraordinary. What if, Socrates asks, we could build a city from scratch, a city founded entirely on reason and virtue? That question becomes the heart of the Republic, a philosophical experiment that aims to design the perfect society, not to describe what is, but to reveal what should be. 3. The city and the soul. A mirror of justice. Plato believed that the city, the polis, was like a giant mirror of the human soul. To understand justice in society, he argued, we must first understand justice within ourselves. He divided both the soul and the city into 3 parts. The rational part, the mind, the thinkers, the rulers guided by wisdom. The spirited part, the warriors, driven by courage and honor. The appetitive part, the workers motivated by desire, need, and production. Justice, Plato said, exists when each part performs its proper function and does not interfere with the others. In a just soul, reason rules over passion. In a just city, the wise rule over the masses. Each person does what they are best suited for, and no one overreaches. Harmony, not equality, is the foundation of Plato's justice. 4. The philosopher kings, rulers of reason. If justice means rule by wisdom, then who should rule the city? For Plato, the answer was radical: philosophers. He imagined a class of leaders called philosopher kings, trained not in rhetoric or politics, but in truth. They would study mathematics, logic, and philosophy for decades until they understood the form of the good, the ultimate source of truth and morality. Only then, Plato said, would they be ready to govern. Until philosophers rule as kings, or kings become true philosophers, he wrote, cities will never know peace. It's an idea that still divides people today. To some, it's a dream of enlightened leadership. To others, it's the beginning of dictatorship, rule by a self-proclaimed elite of knowers. Yet Plato wasn't naive. He knew most people wouldn't want philosophers in charge. He even called democracy the rule of desire. But for him, the purpose of politics wasn't to please the people, it was to guide them toward truth. 5. The allegory of the cave. Escaping the illusion. No discussion of the Republic is complete without one of philosophy's most powerful metaphors, the allegory of the cave. Imagine a group of prisoners chained in a cave, forced to stare at shadows on a wall. Those shadows, flickering illusions cast by firelight, are all they've ever known. Then one prisoner escapes. He climbs out into the sunlight, blinded at first, but slowly he begins to see the real world. Trees, stars, life beyond the cave. And when he returns to free the others, they don't thank him. They call him mad, even dangerous. This, Plato said, is the journey of the philosopher. Most people live in ignorance, mistaking appearances for truth. The philosopher, through knowledge, escapes the cave and must return to guide those still trapped inside. It's not just a metaphor about enlightenment. It's about the duty of wisdom, that truth means nothing if it isn't used to lead others out of illusion. 6. The noble lie, the price of order. But Plato knew that his ideal city could not survive on truth alone. To keep order, he introduced one of his most controversial ideas, the noble lie. According to this myth, every citizen is born with a certain kind of metal in their soul. Gold for rulers, silver for soldiers, bronze and iron for workers. This divine hierarchy, Plato argued, would convince people to accept their role, believing it to be part of a cosmic design. To modern readers, this sounds manipulative, even totalitarian. But for Plato, it wasn't deception for power's sake. It was a myth to preserve harmony, to prevent envy and chaos. He believed that sometimes a lie that sustains justice is better than a truth that destroys it. A disturbing idea, but one that still echoes in politics today. 7. The decline of cities, Plato's cycle of corruption. Plato's Republic wasn't just about the perfect city. It was also a warning about how good societies fall apart. He described a cycle of regimes, each decaying into the next. Aristocracy, rule by the wise. Timocracy, rule by the honorable. Oligarchy, rule by the wealthy. Democracy, rule by the people. Tyranny, rule by one. Each stage represents the soul's corruption, from reason to desire, from order to chaos. For Plato, democracy wasn't freedom, it was instability. When everyone demands absolute freedom, he warned, chaos follows, and out of chaos rises the tyrant, promising order. A chilling prediction that history has proven right again and again. 8. Justice today. Does Plato still speak to us? So, what does a 2,400-year-old text about philosopher kings and bronze souls have to do with our world today? More than we might think. Every generation faces the same question Plato asked. How can we build a society that is fair, stable, and wise? We still struggle to balance freedom with order, truth with belief, and knowledge with power. We still live in caves, echo chambers, social media bubbles, political illusions, mistaking shadows for truth. And perhaps, like Plato's philosopher, we still need people willing to climb out of those caves, not for power, but for understanding. 9. The imperfect ideal, utopia or warning. Critics have long debated whether Plato's Republic was a genuine utopia or a warning against trying to build one. His rigid class system, censorship, and control over family life sound more dystopian than democratic. Yet at its core, the Republic isn't about control. It's about harmony through justice. Plato didn't want a world where everyone was equal in power, but where everyone had a purpose. He dreamed of a society guided not by greed or ambition, but by reason and virtue. Whether that dream is achievable or even desirable is a question we still wrestle with. Conclusion: the dream that never dies. In the end, the Republic is more than a book. It's a mirror. It forces us to ask, what would justice look like if we truly lived by it? Plato's vision remains haunting because it's not just ancient philosophy. It's a reflection of the struggles that define every human society. Maybe the perfect society isn't one we can build outside ourselves, but one we must build within. Because, as Plato taught, a just city begins with a just soul. If you found this exploration insightful, give this video a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Timeless Questions channel for more deep dives into philosophy, history, and human nature. Because the questions may be ancient, but the wisdom is timeless.